Watkinson's strategic plan has 5 goal areas, and the 5th goal area is called telling our story, when a story becomes a model. And while that has lots of tenets to it, predominantly it's about Watkinson being able to better connect with its people, all of its people. And to that end, one of the things that Watkinson has certainly struggled with as long as I've been here, which is going on 20 years, is that when people visit the school, when they come here, they immediately go, oh, this place, I love this place. The feeling of the community, the beauty of the campus, the engagement, they see and feel the engagement of the students, the diversity of its people. So many wonderful things that you get once you sort of cross the threshold of 180 Bloomfield Avenue. And yet, quite literally for decades, we've been told that that same vibe doesn't make it through into our printed or electronic collateral. We haven't sort of cracked that nut. And for me, that was sort of at the heart of my question as we entered this work. Forever, Watkinson has heard, and it's not uncommon for independent schools, that the #1 way we attract students is through word of mouth. And that was 100% borne out through the market research. The #1 way that people hear about Watkinson, they're convinced of Watkinson's value, is through word of mouth. And so the aha moment was that sort of once and for all, we need to crack the code on how we stimulate word of mouth, how we can populate that stream so that people who may have a 2 decades old impression of the school and sort of think they know Watkinson, but in fact wrongly know Watkinson, through our story-making machine, whether it's coming to them through their neighbor or their coworker or through their social media feed, or somehow that we really take the reins of that story making and make that word of mouth pipeline be as robust and exciting and dynamic and authentic as visiting 180 Bloomfield Avenue. One piece of our action plan was to hire the best storyteller that we knew. We needed some help to launch this storytelling, what I call a storytelling machine, and having the most relevant storyteller that we could find. And that's more than just great writing. It's being able to interview well, it's being able to create a story that's succinct and short, people's attention spans aren't long. There's a lot of aspects to that. Fortunately, she already worked here. So, the first step was expanding your contract to be able to afford you to have a larger scope of work and help us build the storytelling machine. The second step was putting DK Advertising on a retainer to be critical friends to you and me as we developed all of the pieces of this storytelling machine, because they were very in tune with the strategic planning process. They were part of the team on that helped us make meaning of the market research report that we got, and their outside yet simultaneously inside perspective, we wanted that to continue. And so having those critical friends was step 2. And once those 2 pieces fell into place, I was really of the belief, this was like mid-July, early August, that I needed to rip the Band-Aid off fast and get some stories quickly and see what happened. Nine students, one teacher, one parent, and 2 alumni came. I was floored. Their willingness to engage was extraordinary. The day was so fun. Their stories were so diverse, so personal. They worked hard to hone and convey the essence of their stories in the same kind of, with the same kind of rigorous focus you would see from somebody in a classroom. They gave this process their best. And while I don't think the process of extracting people's stories, it's not always going to happen in a storytelling workshop, that workshop showed me that A, there's a hunger to do it, hunger and willingness. B, that's one way to do it. We now have a way to do that. We could do a storytelling workshop once a month, and by the end of the year have over nearly 200 stories. That would be crazy and awesome. Will there be other ways to extract stories? Absolutely. The number of people that I heard from that we invited to that event who said, I'm so sorry that I couldn't make it. Is there another way that I could participate? And so I'm sure there will be email exchanges and Skype sessions that we record. And just because you're not on campus, you can still tell us your story. Take a selfie video, send us that. Like, I think once the container that's holding all of these stories is public, and we can show people what we mean, and that when stories start to resonate with people and start to get shared by social media, and we start to drive them out through our e-newsletters, and we start to populate them on our own website and put them on YouTube channels so that people who are finding the school through external sites like niche.com, we're going to see what's meaningful to prospective families. We're going to see what kinds of stories donors value. We're going to see what kind of stories potential donors value. And all of that is going to, all of those ways is going to find, is going to create opportunities for people who have stories to say, oh, I have a story like that. People need to hear my story. Hey, Jenni French, hey, Jenny Katz, when's your next storytelling workshop? Like, I could see that happening now.
My name is Raheem. I'm a senior at Watkinson, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about why I love Watkinson so much.
Coming to a smaller school has made a world of difference to me because the teachers actually care about the students and not just about their grades, but also how they're feeling.
From relationship building with students, parents, and colleges, they take the stress out of the whole process, and it makes it almost enjoyable for the family as they go through the college application process.
But here at Watkinson, we have classes that teach you in depth in a very specific way through discussions that makes you think critically.
And I thought it was so different because at other schools, I wouldn't have gotten clapping to get back on stage. I would have probably gotten laughter or something, which isn't very supportive, and my grade supported me in the moment, which made me think that Watkinson is definitely a family here.
And honestly, I don't know that that's something I ever would have done if not for, being so used to being taken seriously and feeling confident and comfortable in my ideas.
Because of how small the school is and because of just how tight-knit we are, that just allows me to be a much better learner, to be really comfortable in class, and to be who I am. And that's a really cool feeling, to be able to be this comfortable in just a little community like that. And it's a really cool feeling.
Watkinson's current iteration of its view book, I think, published 4 years ago, because of Terry's arrival and the strategic planning process, we sort of hit the pause button on updating our view book, and it was absolutely the right thing to do. We now, with the wealth of data from the market research and the clear message through the market research that word of mouth, personal stories over institutional voice, we've completely redone our view book. The whole thing is filled with personal narratives. The headline on the cover feeds and yet dispels a decades-old adage that Watkinson is different. It says, yes, Watkinson is different in all the best ways. You're brilliant writing, right? Really, here are the awesome ways that we're different. Here are 10. And the view book tells 10 stories. And when you get to the end of the view book, we're going to say, want 10 more? Go to our website. You want 10 more? Go to our YouTube channel. You want 10 more? Come to campus. Actually, if they come to campus, they're going to get about 350 more between the students and all the teachers that are here. But that's so different from any Watkinson view book that has gone before, which has been filled with Watkinson describing its educational philosophy. Now we're going to show them through our students, parents, and alumni voices our educational philosophy at work. Very different. As soon as the strategic plan was adopted, Terry charged me with getting out in the community and talking about it. And so the school did some things like join the Metro Hartford Alliance, the Greater Hartford Region's economic driving institution. And then the West Hartford Chamber of Commerce, we joined that shortly thereafter. And that was my job. You know, every 2 weeks or so, I would be at some sort of a community event, working the room, talking about a strategic plan. So much so that after about 4 to 6 months of doing that, I would show up and people would say to me, oh, you're that school that has a strategic plan and you're actually doing it. And essentially, the story that I had been populating the room had now made its way through the room and was coming back to me through people that I was meeting for the first time. Now we're going into year 3 of that, and that has happened 1,000-fold. The number of people in the Greater Hartford community that are engaging. So the 2 areas of the strategic plan that this affects, in my view, are telling our story, but also school as community and community as school. And progress in both of those areas is happening as a result of that outreach or that strategic engagement. So somewhere in this timeline, you know, Terry looked at me, we sort of had an eyes-on moment and said, we need to expand your title from just communications to communications and strategic engagement. And that's really important to me because now the faculty are starting to see that the communications office is a resource. Perfect example, 9th grade retreat used to go to the Heifer Farm. That particular farm has closed. The 9th graders needed a new retreat. Jen O'Brien is one of the 9th grade advisors. She and Ashley Treat came to me and said, we know you've done a ton of work getting connected downtown. We think we want to do a retreat in the city, but we're sort of having trouble figuring out where and topic, etc. And I immediately started riffing and I said, you need to go to Upward Hartford. They've got incredible co-working space. The students would love it. It would unlock their minds. You need to go hunker down with Billings Forge and you need to talk to the Knox Parks people. They're both doing amazing things with food sourcing and availability in Hartford. It could be the theme of your whole retreat. The kids would be able to try to grocery shop downtown. They would try all different kinds of restaurants. And then they started riffing and saying, we could go to the farmer's market. We could give them a set amount of money and say, here's your shopping list. You have to go shopping for a family of 4 on this much money. You live here, go, and then come back and download that. And so it was a total collaboration, but started with, okay, let me open my, not really called a Rolodex anymore, I don't know what you call it, but here, let me open my contacts, and you know, here's this person, here's their email, and yes, she came to Freshly Squeezed, so she knows who we are, and oh, she was just here last week, I went to their fundraiser, and all of that networking and storytelling, all of those people in the community now know who we are, what we're doing. They know that we're a different kind of school. They've seen the kind of rich engagement and collaboration and creativity that even through communications and development, because the development office has also been collaborating with me in terms of showing up at things downtown. It's sort of like, well, here's the event. Next week there's a Connecticut Forum event. Who's free? Who can go to this one? We're working together that way to ensure that every step of the way we're working those contacts, and that's reaping huge rewards back to the school in a host of ways. We're just about to launch senior projects as a requirement. So now we're talking about Goal Area 1, the educational program, and we're remaking the senior year. And part of the senior year is now every single senior, by the time the class of 2020 is a senior, they're going to be required to do a senior project. Every single one of those kids is going to require a mentor. Well, guess what? Terry knew that 3 years ago, which is part of the reason she said, anytime you go anywhere and you're making a contact, put their name into a database. So now, Monday, I'm sending out an email to, I don't know, like 150 different people to invite them here to talk about and give us advice and potentially consider being a senior project mentor. This is 3 years in the making. This isn't like, you don't decide, oh, I need to come up with 40 senior project mentors. You can't start that work now. Like, this is, and it's all woven together. And the success of the engagement of those senior project mentors is directly connected to the storytelling that began 3 years ago. Watkinson's mission is to give students the power to shape their lives in the world around them and to develop that skill in them. That's so real here, and it's so real for anybody who works here as well. And so when you take that mission and put it as sort of the lens through which we're doing this storytelling, these people are going to shape the school and shape the school's perception in their communities, and I think it's going to be the most effective thing. It's way harder than placing an ad in a newspaper. It's way harder, and I think it's why independent schools all struggle with the same issue. Anytime I've been to a conference, whether it's NACE or the Connecticut Association of Independent Schools, whatever conference I go to, I hear the same thing. Oh, word of mouth is the driver, and sometimes accompanied with eye rolling and hand wringing, like, oh, isn't it frustrating, everything we do, and yet word of mouth continues to be the thing. Well, what's going to happen, and where I see this already heading, is Watkinson's going to become the model for other schools saying, how did you do that? And while that may not have been our initial goal is providing thriving pipelines to the school, whether it's prospective families or pipelines for alumni to come back and re-engage with the school, or donors for the development office. All of that is advancement, and storytelling affects all of those things, and word of mouth affects all of those aspects of the school. But I think a byproduct is that we're going to become a model so that other independent schools are going to look and go, oh, you figured out the word of mouth thing? Oh my goodness, Obi-Wan Kenobi, tell me your secret, sort of thing.